Now I'm showing you how I make fonts for Total War. Um, I know I'm probably going to struggle with English a lot, but just bear with me, right? Also, this video is probably going to be quite a long one, because I don't know how much time exactly this process is going to take, but it's quite long, usually. Anyway, first, of course, we have to choose the font we want. I will just look at the standard ones that come with Windows. These are all ugly. Well, this one will do. I actually wanted to make this font before because it looks kind of nice, but it only has, as you can see now, it only has Latin, so I needed a font for the Russian localization, but this one wasn't suitable because it only has Latin, like the standard La Gioconda used by CA. But now we don't mind the Cyrillic. We don't need it when we need the Latin script. So we will choose this font. Let's try Syntao. Let's try to use it. First we open the CUF tool. Yeah, we have to preview the standard La Gioconda one. I'm going to replace, for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to replace this one, because this font is used in the main menu and in settlement names on the 3D campaign map. I will copy its name. So here is what the actual font file looks like. Now I will build my own with the same name. I choose the system script. I don't touch anything here. Leave everything as it is. Now Syntao, here it is. 16, right? 16. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, you can already see that it is quite small compared to the La Gioconda 16, and also it's all the letters kind of jump up and down. It's very ugly looking. So we have to increase the font size just to see this one probably. Yeah, this one is pretty much the same size, but it is going to change when we modify the font, and we will have to modify it because, as you see, the letters are quite ugly. So we close the CUF tool and go to the actual font file itself. Yeah, here it is. We have to edit the actual font file, so that is basically the primary problem with all the fonts you try to put into Total War games is that the community CUF tool, it distorts the fonts where the characters are of different size. So we have to trick the engine into kind of seeing the, well, we aren't actually trying to trick the engine. We are trying to trick the user, the player, with modifying all the characters in this font so that they all have roughly the same size, at least vertically. It will be barely, almost invisible in the game, but it will be very important for the engine to handle the font properly. Basically, we only have to know what is the tallest and the lowest character coordinates in the font are. Like, for example, this one. It's quite high. This is probably the tallest letter in the entire font. Maybe say for this one. Let's see how tall this one is. This letter is 1738 points tall. This one, 1739. So basically this is, I believe, the tallest letter in the entire font. The whole font is only 253 glyphs. Even less, actually, because these are blank. But the actual game doesn't need all of these, at least the English version, especially this one. So now we have to find which is, this is not low enough. We have to find which one actually is the lowest. This isn't the lowest character, obviously. This one is low, but probably not the lowest. Let us see this one. Oh, this is quite low. This is the lowest character in the font, probably. Minus 573. So those are two numbers we have to know for this kind of trick to work. This character is 1739 tall. We add a point, a tiny little pixel, in the actual file, in the, well, blueprint, if you will, of one of the characters at that exact height. This tiny little pixel is 1739. The coordinates of this tiny little pixel is 1739. Now we add another one. Let us see. 573. 573. We add another little pixel. Here it is. Now we have to copy these two pixels across, well, the entire font. Of course, we are not going to do this manually, because it will take a lot of time. Well, maybe 253 glyphs, that is not that big of a number. But many fonts, especially like those I made already, like Cormorant, Allegria, they consist of thousands of characters, so it's quite obvious that doing that manually would take a lot of time and effort, so I just automate the process. This is how I do it. Just use this tiny little utility that's called doOver.exe. I simply copy these two pixels and insert them into throughout the entire font. I'm going to demonstrate how I use this program. or rather a tiny app do over. I just record 2 simple actions. I press record. Now the app sees which window I want to work in. I press 2 commands: next, glyph, and insert the pixels. That's it. That's the command I want to automate. Now I've done the first glyph already. Now only 252 to go. So we want to have this command automated, repeated 252 times. This is how I do it. This is how I did this all these times. Simply search for repeat text. Like, perfect. This text and 252 times. Yes, that's it. Now simply press play. Well, it still takes some time, but not as long and not as much of an effort as doing it by hand. And done. Now we just have to rename the font so that it doesn't conflict with the actual the source Centaur font. Let's name it Centaur CUF and export. We don't need this anymore. All we have to do now is install that font. Now it's in the system, and all we have to do is open the CUF tool. Yeah, let's preview the original Logic Wonder one. Here it is. Now build our own system. Next, Centaur CUF. It was 22 last time. Yeah, but it's a different font by now, so it's wrong. We have to find a new size, like, I don't know, 12? No, that's too large. Let's compare them. This one is 14 pixels tall, and my Centaur is about 16. Yes, 16 pixels tall. That's too large. And we have to make it smaller, like 10. No, this is 13, and we need 14. It's 11 then. Apply, export, preview. $15. Well, that will do it. Just a pixel taller, and I'm sure it will look alright in the game. And the letters don't jump, because we modified the actual font file so that all characters are technically of the same size, because there is a tiny little pixel up there and down there in all characters of the font. The user will not see those tiny little pixels because they're very tiny and very little. Well, they will still be kind of visible, but barely noticeable. I know I can see them when I look for them in the game, but from a distance you just don't notice them. So now I will export the font, and yeah, this is now there will be another important part to modify the actual font file, the CUF font file in hex editor, because no one knows why, but if you don't do that, it crashes the game. Yeah, render finished. Now we edit the CUF file. Simply add 8 zeros. That's it. Now we can create a new spec file. Let's name it, well, obviously Syntor, and yeah, it's empty now. We create a font folder, insert the font there, and load it. Excuse me. I don't know why the Backfile Manager does this, but it happens from time to time. This solution is to not import the file. Well, usually when you click Files, add files in the Backfile Manager, it after importing during the import, it remembers which directory the file is in. So when you import it, it should be in a directory called font, but sometimes it doesn't happen. So the solution is to import the entire directory, which is called font. Now this is what it should look like, and we simply install the font. Yeah, this gives me an error because I actually modified the user script file. It's completely empty, but it is read-only. Why I did that? Because usually when you press install a pack file in the pack file manager, it writes the name of that pack file into this file, and the game loads it. It doesn't depend whether the said pack file is ticked in the launcher. If the name of the pack file is in this user script file, then it will load, and it causes a lot of problems. So I just do this little trick to get rid of unnecessary pack files. I hope I am making some sense. Now we have to run the game. Here's our new pack file. And the game crashed. That is probably because I am not running Steam as admin. Alright. Yeah, the font is in the game, but it's kinda too tall. The buttons are bigger than they are in vanilla, so I will have to take a picture and take another one without the mod to see what causes the problem.
Sega.
Let us see. So the buttons became noticeably larger. The font itself is not the problem. The problem is that I know what the problem is. The problem is that I didn't when I was setting the font size, I forgot to change the line height of the font, because the font is called, well, the source font, the target font, the font I am going to replace is 16 pixels tall. The actual line is 16 pixels tall. Well, not pixels, but that is the size of the font I am replacing. And my font size is um, larger. So I have to manually set the cap height at 16 to solve this problem. Wait, 16, yes. Now, blah blah blah, everything as before. Cinto 11. Yeah, now the problem should be gone.
Sega.
Alright, now everything is alright. The button size is the same because the cap height is the same as with the standard Lagioconda used by the Creative Assembly. But I think that the letters are lower than they should be. So I will take another picture to compare this new font with Lagioconda used by Creative Assembly. Yeah, you can notice how lower, how much lower the new font is. It is 5 pixels lower than it should be. So now I will have to do it again, but this time I will modify the vertical alignment. The current vertical alignment of this font is 19. I will have to reduce it by 5 to make it higher. Vertical alignment. It is 19 minus 5. Now it should work.
Sega.
Alright, it works. Let's see what it looks on the campaign map.
You are at war with the Etruscan
Well,
League.
yeah, it
March north
kinda
and capture their
does actually
territories.
look like it
This will allow
worked
you to
as
consolidate
intended.
Italia and ensure that...
As the main administrative center in a region, the settlement contains both trade
Pixel
and
perfect.
military buildings. Settlements are the main consumer
Of
of
course,
food
the
supplies in a province,
Kern
so it is
is
vitally
around here, but you
important to
cannot
keep food production
fix
buildings
that with community
upgraded to
modules,
avoid
as I
shortages.
can tell. Um, this looks alright. It's actually the Centaur font is kind of similar to Lagiconda. You see. The problem with this font is that it doesn't support Cyrillic and Greek letters, and that is the primary reason why I started doing fonts, because the standard font, the official font used instead of Lagiconda by the Russian localization is Georgia, and it looks just awful. Yeah, well, this was a tutorial how to do one font. Now you have to do the same thing with all the fonts you can see in the game, with all sizes, because you see that we only replaced one size. This is Lagiconda 16. This is Lagiconda 18. Understand? So you have to repeat this process. Yeah, you have to manually, by trial and error, you have to determine the correct values of cap height and vertical alignment used by all fonts in the game, because the actual values used by the game fonts, the standard, the official Lagiconda fonts, is going to be different from the values used by your fonts. In my case, you noticed how I replaced Lagiconda 16 with Centaur CUF 11. So this font here, it looks like the same size. It has the same height as Lagiconda 16, but it is actually the actual size of this particular font is 11. So you will have to figure this out for every single font you can see in the game. Good luck.